That time once again, GM Facepalm episode. Today, going to part 2 of the 6th book of Jade Regent. So, part 2 of 2 today. Last time I went over part 1 of 2 of Jade Regent, The Empty Throne, book 6, and went into that in length. Talked about the Imperial Shrine, the Well of Demons, the Mantisu lore, the wealth of knowledge that can be attained from that. So, bring you some more options, some more frustrations to your RPG table today. GM Facepalm episode, here we go. So, The Empty Throne. I really like the Well of Demons. I finished that with my group. Pretty good. A newer group, a salvageable group, in the face of those that departed. The literal frustrations of it and the complications, and finding a way to save face, to press on, finding some valued players who will finish out this 2-year endeavor, this adventure path hosted online with map tools. So going forward with this, I finished out the Well of Demons, as I just said, and it was great. Having the different types of factions there, whether they were devils, demons, Matt Damons, having the different smaller factions, rivals, different quadrants of the layers, paths. And there was some complication with that, because the mission of it, the objective of trying to cleanse the Imperial Shrine, to bring the waters of the Lake of Tears flowing once more with the the Kami. I'm not talking about communists, sorry. The Kami, whatever you want to say. Residing over it, returning to it. The good-natured spirits flourishing back to the shrine to offer wisdom, to help inter those into the Imperial Shrine, the emperors of the future, to give advice. So you're trying to cleanse it, since it's completely out of bounds with the horrible, dishonorable act that was committed long ago by the Jade Regent and Emperor Shiguri with his death. So, lots of great content there. Different factions, but again, there was a lot of confusion amid the players, where the mission was not very straightforward, where they tell you to cleanse it, but they don't really explain how. There's some residing options to eliminate all threats down there. Will that cleanse it? The alliances that could be formed, trying to gain the blessings. What if you can't get the blessings? Does that mean you can't move on? There's a lot of blank, sort of fillable answers there, and the GM should fill those in. Those questions may come up, some frustration, some fear as to whether they're supposed to get the blessings from the evil people. Will the good-natured spirits return? Is it bad or evil to align with some of these people, not fully understand their full intentions, your layered plots, being that there's so many different factions, possibly vying for them to kill the other and offer whatever significant aid or valued information. So there's a lot of that there. And really, I would say, go with what your instincts suggest, whether it's going to be, the whole thing has to be cleansed, whether at some point, the good spirits will return. And even then, the face of the opposition of even people just suggesting, why do we even need to get blessings for this? Just instilling within them the tradition, the ceremonial honor behind it, the wisdom, the guidance, maybe even Sushin conveys this as it should be a great artifact of a conversationalist. So, pressing forward, moving on from that, you get the blessings, whether from the evil emperors of before or from the good-natured emperors that return. So it suggested that some time would pass. And another sort of vague notion comes to mind, maybe by the players themselves. How do they go back in gear again? Do they try and go back into Kasai when they need to take rests and whatnot? I even thought about, or I even actually introduced axiomites, Matasu Onoko, who helps bring people who can trade freely, going about visiting access and able to exchange goods and services there. So just to kind of avoid the whole Kasai and getting sidetracked, or presenting more of a lure to go for the Jade Regent right away, even though you want to try and get through these blessings and then try to instill some more information about what's to come, or discover the past, since a lot of the Matasu lore is kind of shrouded over in a veil that is hard to pierce. But you complete all of that, and finally the players, desperately clawing for, vying for, to storm upon the Imperial Palace where the Jade Regent resides, along with his, what I would suggest saying, Scions. They should have control of the other 4 seals. Maybe since by the way of the Jade Throne. Since the Jade Throne doesn't really have that many options, doesn't really list any kind of information, any wealth of knowledge that could be imparted to GM, that he could therefore she or whatever, impart upon the PCs. So, what I suggest, have the Jade Throne bestow the powers of the other Imperial Seals to the one who resides over the Jade Throne. The person who over the Jade Throne should have the powers of all 5 in effect, but really they only have 4 right now, with the Matasu one being long lost. So, when you think of that, the powers, how do you even go from there? Because the other Imperial Seals, how do you try to fabricate powers in relation to the Matasu seal? And then probably the complications, the frustrations of trying to divine how to not make it overpowered. Too much power being given to the PCs when they come upon the other 4 seals. What I suggest, the person who resides over the Jade Throne has power over the other seals that are in their possession, even if later they go on to the other families. But I would say the Jade Throne is a conduit to it, through some sort of golden mandate of the gods. And the type of power should be mythic. A mythic font of power, some sort of ascension granted by the artifact, a divine vessel. So what I'm going to do is, when the players do finally save Kasai, successfully win the rebellion over the Jade Regent, that they should gain mythic tiers through the Jade Throne by the Imperial Seals. So each Imperial Seal will impart a mythic tier, in effect going through a mythic trial just to speed things up. And by equal measure, the Jade Regent and his Scions will have mythic power as well. Now, if you're playing this game and you're following the way the experience is set up, where you are 15th level when you face the Jade Regent. Certainly having them at Mythic potential with what would be 4 tiers, or yeah, four tiers, that would be very difficult, as it is already very difficult without the Mythic. Because, they're all representations of CR 16, and there's 4 of them. No doubt how many other guards may be in employ. What other things of the party are they going to aggravate or draw into that room if they bypass certain rooms? And already, the Jade Regent and his Scions, they have very powerful abilities, very powerful magical items. They are stocked very well. It seems as though you are also facing a group of PCs, since they have their own tactics: a healer, a stealthy thief, a great guardian with great defensive and offensive skills, and then, an Oni to back them up with, having various skills. So, I would even do the Mythic then, if you're actually, see if your guys are level 15 when they face them, and you know that your group is not very overpowered. If you don't have any representations of overpoweredness of any min-maxers in your group, then, you can just stick with the AP as written. But with the two recent additions to my group, as we try to finish the rest of this book, I experienced some overpoweredness, some min-maxers, and adjust into that while trying not to hurt the other players as far as their gameplay. Try not to limit them. I've been able to make a few balanced things, just so that it's still a fair play. But my group right now is level 16 before even getting to the Jade Regent, and they've been able to take down lots of things very well. They have a great tactics, icy prison, the major buffs of the spells, to the disparaging strikes of the one sort of fighter-ish rogue, demoralizing people with their attacks, staggering their victims, making them blind and deaf, all these kind of different things. A wealth of powerful resolve, of devastating the playing field. Of course, I can find my own things and give it right back, but I would think that the Jade Regent and his Scions would be a pushover. They would get swept quite fast. So I'm suggesting Mythic power, Mythic tiers, and it'll be a great challenge for them. I already went with some of the things here I can list. If you were to go with the Mythic part of this, implemented the Mythic adventures into Jade Regent, there's something on Paizo forums where they talk about Mythic, and throughout the rest of the APs, what things you can apply Mythic to. It's pretty good. I found this out after I already made these guys Mythic. So some people would suggest that Jade Regent should be a Guardian, but I went with Champion. So he is a Mythic Champion, and some really great abilities that he has. Where you deflect arrows, feet, the Mythic one, the Amazing Initiative, the Backlash if he's critically hit, the Blowback, the Precision that's already configured in his stats here, the Sudden Attack, which is a swift action, taking the best of 2 rolls, where you can fight to the death as well, the Surge ability. And he already has the Ion Stone to suck up the magic spells being deployed at him, so he's not a pushover at all. And of course, with his Demand and Challenge, his ability to challenge, and a greater banner with the evasion, the samurai capabilities. He's quite powerful, especially since I given them full hit points. On to Renchi Media. I made her a Mythic Hierophant, however you want to say that, the divine part of the Mythic path. She has some great counterspell ability. It's going to be a lot of fun using that, just because the party hasn't really experienced too much with counterspells. And, of course, the Reign of Counterspells, the Immunity, the Magic Missile, Overflowing Grace, Heathen Slayer, for those who are worshippers of Shizuru. You have the flexible counterspells and immediate action, the Hard to Kill, the Pure Senses, so they would be immune to blindness, deafness, so this can really level the playing field quite well to where they can't be debuffed as easily, since the PCs are already going to be heavily buffed going into this fight. I didn't really do anything to Anamuramon, since I would imagine that by the Golden Mandate, his connection to the Jade Throne would be limited at best, shunted away from. He's already quite powerful as it is, so I just did not make him Mythic. Since he's already at 320 hit points, he has an AC of 32. He's got some great feats at his disposal, as well as a quick spell-like ability. So I'm leaving him as is, but I may change it later to maybe make him a Mythic template, maybe the Invincible one, maybe to represent the Mythic power there, the font of it. Now I think what would be really interesting is taking Gyrus Notori, the Raven Prince. I made him a Mythic Trickster, and the way it's suggested in the AP is that he could be either a potential ally, maybe interested, wishes to see the desire of a new person on the throne, maybe tired of his relationship with Jade Regent, seeing the great setbacks that the party has given the Jade Regent, the overwhelming rebellion in full swing. So he may want a new contract, maybe see what happened with the full potential of the mythicness unlocked with the 5th seal being brought to the Jade Throne. And the way it's written is that he may be interested in switching alliances, with the alliances of the Jade Regent breaking down at this point due to the heavy losses that they've taken. So this presents a unique flare of opportunity, where maybe there's some sort of dialogue, maybe he doesn't fight right away, join his allies, maybe sort of recedes into the darkness, shroud of mystery. Whether you want to roleplay that to great effect. Influence in dialogues. So, there's that. But as a Mythic Trickster, very, very good. I give him mobility and dodge as far as the Mythic feats go. He's got greater feint, spring attack, amazing initiative, deadly dodge as a swift action. Of course, hard to kill, master of escape, mirror dodge, it's an immediate if hit, surprise strike as a swift action, transfer magic as a standard action. So, having the Mythic is just a means to saying, alright, well I'm going to take the best of two roles, or hey, this powerful thing that you always rely upon, which has always devastated me for the most part, this time, this particular round, doesn't happen because I just got to use this swift ability, so it makes my guys last another round or two. So that's what the Mythic for me is. I want them to have a representation of a super fantasy battle here. The Jade Throne, the very potential figureheads here, the Jade Regent and his Scions, representation of tremendous power, of what else should I say? Great authority. So, having the Mythic be a part of the Jade throne, since most of it's kind of unexplained, left for the GM to decide. So that's my representation. That's how I answered the questions that resided around the Jade throne. So sorry for babbling there. So I was trying to present that to you. So anyway, entering the palace, storming the palace is quite exciting. I'm about to do that this week. So I'll make another video later going over everything, the epilogue to it all, and then finally following up with the final video talking about all the APs from book 1 to book 6 that kind of generalize everything. Since the first video it has like over 500 views, so if someone's interested, or I should say many are interested. So the Imperial Palace, it's probably the biggest map of all the APs. It's spectacular. Finally, it's represented in a 5-foot grid. It's not that crappy 10-foot stuff that you have to... I mean, you can easily work around it, but still, it's off-putting when you see it, when you don't get to see the full representation. But this is represented with a 5-foot grid, which is spectacular. There's a lot to it. It reminds me a lot of Scarwall or Castle Corvosa, for some of you that may be aware of the other APs. This is really great. The one probably complaint you might notice, though, is that there's a lot of Typhoon guards. Of course, you're storming the palace. There's going to be representations of an army of units, so I think that should be there. But it will kind of seem a little redundant as you keep encroaching upon fighting these units of Typhoon guards, maybe mixed in with a Typhoon commander. I think those are probably old to you by now, since you ran through quite a bit of them in book 5. So what I would suggest is throwing in a few more of the Onis, the evil spirits, maybe some of the Fire Yas, the Atamuhuta. I don't know the correct pronunciation of that, but it was a 2-headed Oni from book 5. I would say use that. Feel free to use some of the other Onis. I would even suggest going so far as to introduce some of the creatures that were brought in from the granary. Should you try to restore the food supply to Kasai, the Tauthis, the sculpture guardian statues. You could have a couple of those within the palace, since there's lots of statues around. But I think having the terracotta soldiers are really, really awesome. That's a great representation of Asian lore, Asian culture. So the place is huge. There's like 4 or 5 levels to this. There's lots of secret paths. I've had to make a couple extra side maps just in case they do discover these secret entrances or passages within the Imperial Palace. But there's at least there's 50 plus things to fight in here. Individual monsters or adversaries, you know. So I could see this going over quite a few sessions, about 3 or 4 maybe, or it could even be wrapped up in one, depending on the route of the party. If they use some slide tactics, if they kind of know the way around or know the layout, maybe using some magical means, so or just finding the best, quickest route, maybe even by chance. So, but the final encounter looks indeed very tough. Especially if you were to do the Mythic. What I really like is if they try to come upon the vault or treasury where the 4 seals are stored, they would come upon Tychono, a adult sovereign dragon, Imperial dragon, and he's already maxed out 360 hit points and an AC of 34. He's quite powerful, but he should be the proper representation of honor bound. I think you should instill that. He should not quickly attack, only for those that try to take his treasures, that he is honor bound to protect. I would even say, since the close proximity to the Imperial Seals or the Jade Throne for all the years of servitude, I would even say maybe he should be given a few mythic ranks or a mythic template, maybe, as far as the residual mythic power. That's an option, especially if you have some cocky PCs, those who say they're honor bound but really fight with dishonorable tactics because they're too driven by the actual player and not the character. Letting the player reside over the character. So, thinking like a player instead of a character. I think I got one person like that right now. At least one person commented about it, like, hey, all about honor, but, he gives his word to somebody, then quickly attacks them. So, yeah. So, you may want to be prepared for that. Let's see what else. The Clockwork Golems are pretty nice. Kind of gets away from the redundant sort of things you keep seeing. Maybe splitting those up. The different rooms wouldn't be such a bad thing to do. What else? I really like Sadoshi Sento. I kind of threw out the Ogre Mages. They're just very redundant. You've seen them, you fought them a couple times already. Get them out of there. They're kind of weak anyway, so I threw the Tautess in with him and kind of got rid of his recruits, just because they would be pushovers as well. And I've kind of increased his power as well. AC of 37 is quite nice. Especially when you have a player with an AC of 41, you gotta know that some adjustments are needed. But yeah, this is really nice. It's a great book. The Palace is quite exciting. It's long overdue for the party who's constantly complaining about taking out the Jade Regent. Why are we having to do all these other silly little side quests? I did not go with the Rebellion system, and I'm not going to go with the teamwork thing listed for the Jade Regent and his Scions. The, what do they call them here? Yeah, the teamwork scores. I'm not going to do that. I would suggest using that, though, if you feel that this last encounter is going to be very tough. If your players are 15th level and you don't have really any sort of feel of min-maxers or overpoweredness to your group, then I would suggest using the teamwork score and how the Jade Regent and his Scions, as far as the sound is scored, what sorts of things would debuff them in a way, provide a disadvantage to them. I would definitely go with that. But yeah, once I get this done, imagine another week or two we will have this wrapped up, and then of course I will throw myself with reckless abandon into Iron Gods and lose myself within the technological wonder, intrigue, mystery, and I'm sure I'll be quite surprised with the thrilling new content. Undoubtedly facing the challenges presented with the technological aspects of it. I'm sure those will have its own challenges, but uniquely enriching rewards. So that would be interesting. But as far as Jade Regent, I'm going to leave it open when they do complete it, so that if they want to, they can revisit it again at a later time. Maybe even to fight the Shogun, as represented in the continued campaign section. I think they would be well matched with, having 5 mythic tiers and facing the Shogun. maybe going so far as to maybe give them another level to, and have them face the food crisis, the food shortages, and how to find a solution to it. And one that would be represented in a very gargantuan, very tall, very shadow far-reaching of a kaiju, maybe Moguru, fighting that, providing bountiful sushi to the populace. I think with some mythic levels, or I should say mythic tiers, and some extra levels, a few years, maybe not a few years, that would be too much time, I would think, with a food crisis on hand, but have them fight a Godzilla of Pathfinder. I think that would be quite interesting, quite intriguing, a lot of fun. Since that thing has a lot of devastating attacks and abilities. Maybe even have another kaiju fight it, as corny or cheesy as that might seem, but following along in the tradition and sense of those kind of themes. But there's a lot of stuff in the continuing campaign that you can do, even using the ultimate campaign and going with the mass combat rules. They even have some armies that they statted up for you, like the Ice Yaw mercenaries and the Taiya Giant Warband. There's really some great representations of mass combat that you can do, which I would think would be a good thing. Maybe even fighting Jurikar-Kaza. Maybe he joins up with the Shogun. That great worm, the underworld dragon, a Imperial dragon. So there's that. Yeah, that's all I got. I'll be running this week, so I'll definitely offer a sort of final thought to it all, and sort of the epilogue video here, and then finally finish it up with a 1 through 6 video for Jade Regent. That's all I got. So hopefully you kind of pick through some of that rambling, even now waiting for me to be done with it. And anyway, see you next time.